Now we will be having Mr. Sai and Mr. Sridhar from Cognizant, and their topic will be multi APIs automation using Karate framework for a media client.
Hello, all. Warm welcome to everyone, the panel, the audience. Today we have a very special topic in terms of the automation, which has been explored in the past and it's been explored now. But with karate, whatever we've done, we're going to show you guys in this particular presentation. Sai, can you move on to the next slide? I think there seems to be a problem moving to the next slide.
Yeah.
Okay, let me do that. Sorry. So it's with
Yeah.
me. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
What you all see here is multi APIs automation using GraphQL, REST API, UA automation using Karate framework, and we did it for a media client. We'll delve more into it in the coming slides. Um, it's a brief introduction about me and Sai. We work for the same company, Cognizant, and we indeed work with in different projects. And the karate implementation API automation was done in different projects separately by me and Sai. That's how we've come to a common conclusion how good and beautiful it is in terms of the implementation. Um uh, just to give you a brief idea about what's going to come in the next slides, we for the benefit of the audience that is there, we see the lot of newbies and other folks here, and also the people who are interested in knowing API. We're going to give idea about evolution of APIs and importance of APIs in the media, and coming to the common problems of API testing that we see generally, and then delve more into genesis of the solution and the best practices. Genesis of the solution will give you the architecture, the idea of how karate is getting implemented with a beautiful diagram which can be really easily understood, and the best practices that we followed, and definitely the tool comparative analysis that the customers look out for, the the license tool or the open source tools, that kind of analysis, and what advantages we have in terms of karate, and last but not the least, the savings, and finally we go to the bibliography. Okay. The next few slides will be taken over by Sai. He'll explain you the evolution and importance of APIs. Sai, please
Yeah.
start off.
You. So welcome everyone. So I would like to explain about the evolution of APIs. So APIs, we have been using SOAP and REST for a long time. They are stable, and they have served the purpose very well. But evolution of technology, we have lot of new OSs coming up. We have new devices coming up. So we have to generate it separately. See, suppose in media, if you go for a media, what happens is you can stream your content in your website, you can stream it in your mobile. It will be Android or iOS, and you can stream it over OTT devices, or else you can stream it at or Xbox or gaming devices as well. So what happens is some features are available only in mobile, and it is not available over the OTT. So showing those features in OTT devices is almost like a senseless thing. So what happens is you need a UI change and different experience. So using if we are to use this kind of services in the back end for fetching the front end, what happens is if you are using the same API, you will have lot of coding effort to render those things. Like you have to deprecate a couple of calls which you are getting in the API, you need not consider it. You have to code it much better. But what we can do is we can have separate APIs. If you're using REST API, you can have individual APIs for your each platform. But what that finally does is it will have an impact over the server, because it has to render the data for all and each and every platform. So that will be a problem with REST API. So what happens is, if you use a GraphQL, you can pass in the body, in the query variables, you can pass which platform you are fetching the response for. So that will help in minimizing the pressure on the server, and as well as you can get it will completely reduce the load of the request. So suppose in mobile I am seeing only couple of graphics, whereas in OTT I might see heavy number of graphics. So what happens is, the load, like whatever network speed it is, you will get an optimized result for your particular query. So thereby, the performance of the system also will increase using a GraphQL. But when you come for testing, right? So GraphQL is a pretty new technology, and the adaptation, because already when you have a SOAP and REST which is very stable, the adaptation generally will be slow, and there will be thinking factor about the cost and about the new architecture and the changes. But traditionally, the thinking over the time, it is changing, and now a lot of clients are implementing GraphQL. So now we have to find solutions to test it, being the testers. So Sridhar, can you move on to next slide? Yeah. So we have to find how to test them, because they are very crucial. If you see the importance of APIs, you can see in we can use it for profile creations, or free credits. So you can watch 5 movies or 5 TV shows or 5 episodes for free, and after that you go to a paid. So these all types of things are controlled by APIs, and even your player, right? Media API controls your player. So the playback, and these all are controlled by APIs itself. So what happens is, APIs play a very crucial role, in for business purpose. Like, if you have to check your analytics, or if you have to check how many views we got for a particular video, these are all calculated by APIs and sent over to the server. So APIs are like lifeline for entire front ends, because they simplify the coding part. Okay, you need not hard code. You can render an API to populate it based on the API response. Certain tag fields you can just populate in the front end, instead of hard coding the entire front end what you see. So also, whenever there is any collaborations, right? So suppose you can see Airtel Extreme or Geo TV, for example, in India, they are offering products of different companies. See, suppose if you go for Airtel Extreme, you can see products from Woot, or you can see products from Eros Now, or these kind of things available in Airtel Extreme app. So they are when they are going in a partnership, what they are doing is, they are not going to share entire library to Airtel guys, right? So what they do is, they give an exposed API endpoint which will be rendering the video. So that is what it is inserted into the Airtel Extremes front end, and that is what, when you subscribe to it or when you open it, the that particular video plays on. So that is how it really works in the real time. So what happens is, here you have one more contour. Like, if you are using, suppose the content provider is using a REST API, and you are using a GraphQL. So there will be, two parts of testing, two units of testing that is supposed to be done. Like, you have to test for a REST API, and you have to test for a GraphQL API. So the content is properly exhibited by the provider, and it is rendered properly in the front end. So two ways of testing you have to perform. So in such scenarios, the testing becomes very complicated, and there will be chances like, one. If you implement a CI/CD pipeline, what happens is, your first system is not responding properly, and it is a failed scenario. But what happens is, next build, which is supposed to validate your GraphQL, it will straight away go and it will also fail. But instead of your first system itself, it is blocked. Then it is no use to execute your second system, right? So that's one of the big problems we see in CI/CD. Sridhar, next slide. So apart from that, you need also one more thing is like if you have this REST API and GraphQL, the automation per se, you have to have the skill and understanding how these things are working and how it is rendered. The response is like how we can pass the response and how we have to fetch and validate these variables. These kind of things you need a lot of skill to understand, either it is in Java or in Groovy. So you have to understand these things, and you have to compulsorily learn these things. You have to spend some time, or else you have to hire someone who is having experience in these things, and they can automate it. uh, and also, as I said before, CI/CD is not foolproof. You will have some issues with it. Like we cannot implement zero touch QA, and also there is sometimes with respect to media, right? So even if the service is good, service is working out, and you have a link in your response, okay, that link needs to populate a image in front end, and you need to validate the front end separately, uh, either by automation or manual. You have to validate it like it is not a broken image, or the image is not appropriate. So with per se of that, like what happens is you have to have multiple frameworks with respect to the testing. Suppose you have for REST API, you have one framework. For GraphQL, you have another framework. Again, for UI, you have to use another framework. So what happens is it all brings out more complexity in the automation per se, because you need a different skill set to automate these things. And also, what happens is the coding effort, what it goes into it, is very heavy, and the overall cost of it is also very heavy. So these are the common problems which we see in API testing. So what we did is, like when we face this kind of an issue, what we did is we went for a POC kind of thing, and we have explored a lot of tools, which can provide us an API solution as well as a UI solution. And what happened is, even we were at last we were only looking for an API solution which can automate REST and GraphQL perfectly. So we went through a couple of solutions which are paid and which are also freeware. Uh, by the way, we have this Postman already available, which which is open source and which can do the both of the things. But with respect to automation per se, it is not so effective. Like it will not give us a proper CI/CD approach, and also there is like a reporting and all. We have to rely on the Postman itself. Like we cannot, there is no boundary for it. Like we have our certain boundary, you have to work along that field itself, and you cannot share your reports to peers, or on site, or like these things. So Postman, we first went with Postman. We thought, okay, Postman should serve it, but later when we see all these issues, we were like, then what happened is, we thought we'll go with some other solution. Then we came up with Karate. Karate is a framework which will support, automation testing for API, web, and APM, and also performance testing. So, as a complete solution, you can see in this Karate architecture, we have core functionalities which are web browser automation, API test automation, and we can also do mock tests with it, or like we can say create mock servers with it, and we can do that one as well. It has a desktop app automation, which is like using image OCR, image processing OCR, and like using these things, we can even do desktop automation. So these all things are very promising. So we also have issues with REST API and GraphQL integration. Like we have to do both the testings. So when we did a POC, we found out that we can do it in a single project. See the next slide. We can do it in a single project. As part of best practices, I would like to say, we can do it in a single project. It supports both GraphQL and REST API testing in a single project. We need not maintain separate repos. And why this is important for us is, like in media, we have certain features like continue watching, or favorites, like you have to favorite your show, like whichever show you like, and you can easily access them whenever you are free. These kind of things, what happens is they are like actually in REST API for us, will be fetching the user ID from the REST API. And for GraphQL per se in front end, when you see into the app, right? So if you have watched some episode, so it should come in a shelf where you can again go and like you can click on it and you can navigate it. So that continue watching shelf, these things are in UI per se. They have to come from a GraphQL perspective. So here what happens is we have to create a REST user who is having a watch of particular episode, and that user needs to be input into the GraphQL request in the query variables. And in response, what we get is like a response will contain the continue watching percentage and the title of continue episode. So what happens is in front end, it is easy to retrieve that value. So in such scenarios, right? So for doing end-to-end testing, we have to implement the REST and the GraphQL integration. You have to take REST call and REST response, and you have to get that user ID, and then you have to send it as GraphQL query variable input into the GraphQL query variable. So what happens is it will give you a end-to-end kind of service flow. That is only possible when you have a single project supporting both of them. So that is when that is the one of the best thing which we can do with karate. And also we have something called cucumber reports. So we can use cucumber reports. We have integrated this into the karate. Like karate by default comes with JUnit reports, so we have implemented cucumber reports because it gives us a very clear and graphical view of how services are performing. And it gives the charts, and it gives a very clear picture on how these things work, like what is the response time of that particular service. And if we want to see the response, we can see the response in the printed response will be printed in the report itself in a form of a doc string, so we can expand it and see the response. So also it gives us a step level status of how it is. And then we have that we are also implementing a data extraction from data source. Like we have a endpoint URL, like a URL which will give us the particular query. So each time there is a new deployment or build, like any new development is done, the query will be updated, and that updated query will be extracted and sent out in source in the data source, and that will be fed into the execution in the runtime. And also there is we have externalized the data repo. We have all this whatever test data we can access from the externalized data repo, which is again CSV file. And also, as I said, with other frameworks, you have this problem of writing long assertions. Here we have single assertions, single line assertions, and we need not, write heavy coding. It is very simple. Sridhar, can we go for next? And with respect to executions, right, we have multiple platform or multiple environment execution setup. We can define that in the config file. And next, coming to next, like we have a Cucumber tags, which will give us, flexible execution. Suppose I want to run for a particular platform. In my runner, I can declare that particular platform tag, and it will give us only the results of that particular flag. And also we have retry and parallel executions. So whenever there is a service failure or response timeouts, it will automatically retry. And also parallel, we have parallel execution, which is very unique feature. We can execute even 10,000 services in parallel. What happens is it will reduce the entire execution time. Apart
I'll,
from
I'll,
that,
I'll try to bring a point, Sai, here, okay, about
yeah,
retrain parallel execution for the audience. This
yeah,
is a very unique feature of, karate here for the audience. See, for instance, in the API, you've got, like 200 services that you want to, automate or run, okay. And then at the fifth service, there is a failure in the service, okay. What karate does is it doesn't stop at that particular, service. It will try to reach that service, retry that service, while the other remaining 195 services keep running in parallel. That is the beauty of it. This is what, even the, when we demoed it to the customers, they really liked it. We took a sample of 25 services. We uh, we did a kind of, we kind of broke the kind of, one of the API services, and showed the customer that, even if one is broken, the other coming next would also run in parallel. And that's how the retry will do that in karate. In the other rest assured, or the other kind of tools that we have, you have to code it. But karate really provides us like an inbuilt service. Sai, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, we have zero touch QA possibility. Like whatever reports, right? It's all external reports. So we already implemented Cloud Report integration because Cloud Report, it gives us a historical view of the execution, the build history. Further, we have we have inbuilt in-house tool called Arabot. So we will be implementing that, which will help us, to create. The history of all the executions, and with the respect to trend of failures, there is a AI and ML based mechanism where it will analyze if the failure is genuine or it is related to performance. And if it is failure is genuine with a particular error code, then it will directly arise a bug in Jira using the Jira integration. So this is in pipeline because we have certain restrictions with Jira administrator. Like we have already mailed to the customers about this, and we are working on it. So this is a feature which is possible, and we are trying to implement. And also we have implemented this performance testing feature using Gatling server. So Gatling server provides us the load model, and we can use the same feature files to get this. Performance testing enabled. So you can see a report of it besides. Sridhar, you can go ahead with other slides.
Yes. So coming to the very interesting slide, this is the tool comparison analysis. Okay. So let's talk about what customers would really need, in terms of their analysis that they want before they zero in on a particular tool. Okay. Uh, like when we sought this particular solution to the customer was really interested in asking us what is the real benefit out of it. And the real benefit in 2 points is, the ease of using the karate. Because, if you look at the first point, right, the coding complexity and usability, right, it's a simple gherkin language, BDD. Like most of them must be knowing what it is. So it is the ease of language and the ease of understanding it, even for the stakeholders, anyone wants to learn it. And the second important thing is about the implementation. Implementation, 50% of your problem is solved when the language itself is easy to understand and kind of to implement. And also the analysis against the current tools that they're using. They were using Ready API, which is a license tool, which comes with some dollars and everything. That's thing. But Karate in itself is a freeware, and and the other features that they've mentioned about the performance, and the maintenance effort, and the assertions that it provides. And definitely, the GraphQL support that Karate provides, which is the new service schema, which is the state of art, or the latest trend, that Karate supports, which the freeware tool REST assured doesn't support per se. So in a nutshell, when you kind of see the overall comparison against the other tools, right, you see that sorry for the text which is not aligned, some problem during upload probably. But when you see the green thumbs up, what it says is, uh, on all the 8 parameters that's given to the left side, uh, Karate is the best in terms of comparison, in comparison to the even the license tool, or the free source tool that we have in the market. Uh, Coming to the penultimate slide, advantages, right? So three important points here: scalability, feasibility, and adaptability. Scalability, as I just told you, right? You talk about Ready API, or the GraphQL, which is the current schema. We can easily scale it up using the Karate framework. And feasibility, for instance, we talk about the favorites that we have. In our project, we need to add favorites of a particular show. And then we also need to know what is the percentage of the folks that who watch the favorite. What happens here is, in the graph, using the GraphQL schema, the percentage of those favorites or watches can also be gathered, and this again can be automated or brought through from the response that we use through Karate. That's a very, very unique and uh, beautiful feature, because when you talk about analysis or metrics, or the customer need to look into the data, Karate zeroes into this particular thing through the API response. Adaptability, definitely yes. When we talk about the Gherkin language usage and the syntax or the minimum usage of code, the classes or objects, yes, Karate does provide it, and it's adaptable enough to the current trend and the way the customer wants to see the solution going ahead. Response time, yes, the reports, the time it takes to hit the particular server or the servers, and then the time we get the response, it's all captured in terms of seconds, milliseconds also. The customer can understand which service is taking time, what are the blocks that are there. This time is specifically mentioned in the Karate report. And parallel execution, which if you have separate threads using a feature file and using the particular payload and link it to it, you can always run it parallel. Each payload is you can consider as a service and do it. And you can also use the Kalo, which Sai talked about, which can be integrated with the Karate. And finally, the detailed reporting that we've got, the assertions that we have to pull the data and read the data from the reports and reuse that data into the next service. That is also something very beautiful in terms of assertions and the detailed reporting that we can get. Uh, Overall, this is what it is, and about Karate, uh, and some stuff
Sales.
that you guys can look at the bibliography. Yeah.
Like we have one question. So how easy to parse complex JSON response file? So here we can do it in a two-way. We can take out that field, that particular field's JSON path, and we can get the particular value. We have to use JSON paths for defining that variable, and we can validate that variable as matching or present uh, in that response. Hope it answers your question. Any other questions? And all the assertions and all the syntaxes, right? It is all documented in the first point in the bibliography. If you go to that readme, you have entire documentation, which is very easy. Hardly if you have to compare any two different sets of JSONs, it hardly what you need to do is you have to define the first JSON and second JSON, and you have to do a matches. If you want to see if it contains partially of this JSON, you have to do a contains. You need not write any Java or any JavaScript code in it. It has inbuilt features. Almost it has 56 inbuilt features like matches, contains, not equals, equals, presents, and so on. This is for the API. With respect to APM, and also we have separate action elements and all these stuffs included in it. And also we have a robot framework support with this Karate in UI per se. It supports Karate robot. It has itself developed one more thing called Karate robot, where it has inbuilt functions which can be used for UI automation. So I think we are good.
Yeah, I think,
We
yeah.
don't have
So,
any.
in a nutshell, we can automate everything: UI, performance, even about what Sai is talking about, robot, and definitely the API solution that Karate offers, which is the best in the market right now. Thank you all.